Welcome to the Z Truth Podcast, where we have transparent, real, and thought-provoking conversations. Your host is Zykira Casado, the author of 15 social media secrets that pay. So let's get real, get honest, and get started.
All right, welcome back. Hello. I'm Zykira Casado, also known as C. I have my niece in the background, being like the background host. So if I'm laughing, it's her fault. That's one of our transparent moments. But I'm excited to be back here with another episode of Z Truth. Okay, we are on episode 3. And I really wanted to make this a different type of vibe. It's called Class and Logic because I want to emphasize 2 people who I just find as super dope. But like always, I've decided last show, and shout out to Jamie from The Sleuth coming on. She's our guest host. She's going to be popping in and out throughout the season. But one of the things that I really wanted to do in the first show was go over all of the acronyms, which is transparent, real, unbiased, thought-provoking, holistic topics. And I realized that might be a little not unrealistic to talk about each time, but in order to have organicity, that's the basis of what we're surrounded by. But we're not going to go over every single one unless it comes. You know what I'm saying? So that's my transparent moment. That's how sometimes it goes with creating. That it's like you have an idea, you think it's a great idea, and then you got to shift and change the idea. So we're going to go over most of these things. And so that's one thing I want to talk about in a transparent moment. I want to know if you guys do this. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. But one of the things that I struggle with is waiting to the last minute to do everything. I mean, like the last minute to the point where it's like, you know, you should be in bed, but you decide to do it now. You know, you need to have gotten this finished 3-4 hours in. My niece is laughing because she's witnessed this. And then you end up noticing that you are exhausted now because you haven't done it in a timely manner. Don't get me wrong. Like one of the things I do pride myself with is my time management. I have learned to be able to do multiple things and all of that. Y'all see me waving my nails, right? Shout out to John Nails from MG Nails in Raleigh. I tell about these girls sometimes when they just do a good job, you just be like, that's the purpose. If they don't do that, you need a new nail tech. But he's not a sponsor and he needs to become one, or I would give him more shout outs. But he's not. So we're not going to do that. But we are going to tell you, if you're wondering where, that's where he is. Anyway, but my transparent moment is definitely, am I the only one that waits? And the more and more I've been doing studying, they say that it really is conducive to people who suffer from ADHD. I personally think it's the food. I think ADHD is a result of us eating terrible food. And you know, here in America, unfortunately, they don't give a shit about what we eat as long as they make some money. I said I was going to do this in our last show to give the list. There's like 57 ingredients that are not legal in other countries, but it is legal here. And I keep talking about it because as a child provider, I've been doing childcare for 14 years. Or is it 12 years? 14. What's 2024? 2024, 2010. That's 14 years. And the last maybe 6 years, I have seen an increase in children who have challenges in the area of like being on the spectrum or what they would consider it. But I also noticed that there's more children that eat more processed foods also. One of the reasons why we don't try to give as much processed food as possible at Frowns and Smiles, but we're not going to just throw that out there. We're not. So anyway, that's my transparent moment. I want to know if I'm the only one who waits to the last minute to do things. And it's just not healthy, you know, especially when, you know, you need rest. And I just want to emphasize that it's okay to rest. I got to say that to my Black women too. I ain't saying that all women don't, but I know a lot of women who look like me. We be hustling, boy. Shout out to the hustlers. I wish we had applause. I think I do have applause. Let me see if I do. We need to be able to check, Ari, since you over there um doing your fingers. I don't know what you got going on. Anyway, moving forward, if you are a person that waits to the last minute, let's make a pact between now and our next show that we don't do that shit. The moment that we know that we are supposed to get it done, let's get it done. Like folding clothes, it's such a challenge for me. I'm looking at in my mind the amount of clothes I need to fold, and it's stressing me out. I don't like doing it, but it needs to be done. And when you do it, how many of y'all, when you finish, it's like that didn't even take long. Why did I let that take so long? Or why did I do that? Anyway, that's that for my transparent moment. Let me know if you have experienced that as well, because I just want to be sure I'm not the only one. Because I really feel like I can't be, because you know why? I be seeing mad videos of people actually showing that, not showing that, but making videos showing that people got mad ADHD, and it ain't just me. It ain't just me. I know it ain't. Anyway, I got one of the realest things that I can talk about today, and I ain't going to spend too much time on it. But this was one of the realest moments I have ever experienced. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I don't know if it's because I'm getting a little bit up there in age. But I recently had an experience where I had literally just saw someone, kind of talking, you know what I mean? And you know how sometimes you frustrate each other and you need a little break. It's like, you know what? Get your stuff together and call me when you do. And I had that experience not too long ago, actually a few weeks ago. And then when I'm like, wait, it's been too long, where are you at? They are actually not here anymore. And so that was one of the realest moments for me that I have ever experienced, especially in such a short time. It's like, I just want us to remember that when we're here, it is a gift. And that sometimes we got to not sweat the small stuff, because it's all small stuff when you really think of the scheme of things. Like, this is a very temporary ride. And I don't think that we meet people by just osmosis. I think we meet people for a reason. And so, as the old saying goes, God gives us a gift, and our gift back to him is what we do with our gift. And just remember that he always needs his people back one day. And so I was sad for, like, I'm still a little sad about it. And it's just a very much a reminder. That was also, I lost one of my good friends. Shout out to Tiana. I love her so much. Back this March. She was very close, and she would have been 40 this year. And it's like, it's one of those things that you keep constantly asking yourself, well, if I'm here, there's a reason. And so I want to definitely give us a gentle reminder, because that was very real for me. I've never had that happen to me. And I'm talking about, like, we just spoke 4 or 5 days later, you're not here. And so just keep that in mind. I don't mean to be like a party pooper, but anywho, yeah. So let's get into this unbiased moment. I just got to give a shout out to this daggone Beyonce, okay? I said that the show is called Class and Logic, and this is a reason for this, okay? I don't know if you guys noticed. Well, I said it several times here in the show. I talked about how I thought both sides of the ball were ghetto. When I say both sides of the ball, I mean the politics, the Democrats versus the Republicans. I think they all ghetto. The reason why I think they're all ghetto is because of their Democratic convention. Are you recording me? So I'm recording me. And so the reason why I said this is because Megan, Kamala had Megan Thee Stallion, and Donald Trump had Kid Rock, two influential people in the music industry. And it just frustrated me so much when I saw Megan Thee Stallion come out. It's just what she came out with. If you're watching the video version of this podcast, you can see her outfit. Don't get me wrong, she got a tie on. I know she represents the quote unquote baddies, but that's a frustrating video of her. Okay. And so people always be like, oh, Beyonce's overrated. She is this and this and blah, 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 blah. But then when you bring her out for a political event, my girl comes out like this. And we're going to take a pause for 1 minute and 47 seconds to see the difference in how you present. And so, like, these day and age, we don't ever tell people this, but I was taught this when I was younger. You will be addressed how you dress. Unfortunately, today, you literally can be a complete idiot and become famous because stupidity and craziness actually, um, my baby used to it. He's used to it. He understands. And so, my son just came in, and that's what happens when you raise him up like in this type of environment. Get it? But going back, we don't never tell young girls that how you dress is how you'll be addressed, and so they just do whatever. And so this is my example of there's a time and a place for everything. Beyonce is a entertainer, hands down, an entertainer, and so and I get the whole Megan thing. Like when you look at this, you think baddie, right? In my opinion, I think even in whatever your brand is, let's say like Sexy Red, right? Her music is so catchy, but it frustrates me too. But if she was to come out with Kamala, I would hope that she would look at like a Beyonce and go, well, let me represent like this, okay? And this is what I'm going to show you. Let's just
watch it together. Your freedom is your God-given right, your human right. Everybody say Texas. Texas plays a pivotal role to change the course of our future. Texans and Houstonians from 3rd Ward, River Oaks, Sugarland, 5th Ward, Eerily, Memorial, Southwest Side, North Side, all the way down to Mo City. We all have a role to play to make this a reality. We're all part of something much bigger. We must vote. And we need you. It's time to sing a new song. A song that began 248 years ago. The old notes of downfall, discord, despair no longer resonate. Our generations of loved ones before us are whispering a prophecy, a quest, a calling, an anthem. Our moment right now, it's time for America to sing a new song. Our voices sing a chorus of unity. They sing a song of dignity and opportunity. Are y'all ready to add your voice to the new American song? Because I am.
And that was our girl Beyonce showing us what class looks like, whether you're an entertainer or not. I'm just saying, certain things get certain results. And if you're trying to get, and I'm not saying Megan don't get good results. I'm not. I'm just saying that's my girl. Beehive forever, right? And I really do think that we forget that how you dress is how you will get addressed. And you can, no matter how you slice it and dice it, when two people walk in the room, you look at them, you know what they're here for, what time it is, what are they representing, what you wearing beachwear at an interview. That doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Beyonce for being classy, for being, in my opinion, a good example. I know that's not her. I don't know if that's her goal, but I really love that. I love even Kelly in the video. She's dressed modern, but it's still not like, revealing. Okay. So shout out to Beyonce and, shout out to Kamala. I do hope she wins. If you haven't voted, please go out and vote, whether you're voting for Kamala or Donald Trump. Go vote. Because if you don't vote for nobody, you can't really say nothing, Also, shout out to Relax Tune Spa. If you have not saw this ad or you're in Raleigh, North Carolina, you definitely want to check them out. They're right in Raleigh, in North Raleigh rather, in Litchford Village, right next to Food Lion, off of Litchford Road. They have $36 full body massages. So definitely check them out. But yeah, definitely we're going to move forward. This is going to be a short and sweet show. I really wanted to bring on an old interview of myself with Jane Elliot. A lot of you may not know who she is, but she has been featured on Oprah. She has been around for over 45 years. She's almost 90. Speaking on the message of there's one race, speaking on the behalf of Black, brown people like us for years. And she is known for the blue eye, brown eye test. And if you've never heard of it, I'm going to show a really quick clip of the blue eye, brown eye test. But I do encourage you to go and look at it on your own. But this is who she is. And so before we get into this interview, I hope you guys definitely really do take heed to going out and voting. And you're going to hear some things in the clip that is old because I interviewed her back when Trump was about to be elected the first time when it happened, and it actually happened. And she gave a lot of warnings that actually happened. And so I wanted to not only just shed light on just the election, but a lot of very pivotal things I think that she definitely represents, and I think we all need to hear it now. So this is Jane Elliot. Let me give a quick video on this. If you're watching the video, of course you'll be able to see it, but if not, you'll be able to hear her voice.
Why do we hate?
We hate because we're taught to hate. We hate because we're ignorant. We are the product of ignorant people who have been taught an ignorant thing, which is that there are 4 or 5 different races. There are not 4 or 5 different races. There's only one race on the face of the earth, and we're all members of that race, the human race. But we have separated people into races so that some of us can see ourselves as superior to the others. We thought it would work, I guess. It hasn't worked. It has been bad for everyone. But it's time to get over this business. There is no gene for racism. There's no gene for bigotry. You're not born a bigot. You have to learn to be a bigot. Anything you learn, you can unlearn. It's time to unlearn our bigotry. It's time to get over this thing, and we best get over it pretty soon. I'm an educator. I started the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise because Martin Luther King Jr. had been one of our heroes of the month in February in my 3rd grade classroom, and he was dead at the hands of an assassin. I hate to talk about this because every time I talk about it, I remember how it felt that day. I was going to have to go into my classroom and explain to my students why the adults in this country had allowed somebody to kill hope. Because Martin Luther King, for me, was hope for this country. I was going to pick out a group of people on the basis of a physical characteristic over which they had no control, separate them according to the color of their eyes, treat one group badly and treat the other group very well, and see what would happen. Eye color and skin color are caused by the same chemical, melanin. There is no logic in judging people by the amount of a chemical in their skin.
And so without further ado, I thank you guys for joining me for episode 3 for Z Truth. And I'm going to bring on the great Jane Elliot. Tap in, grab a piece of some coffee, some water, hydrate, do something that you love while you listen. Also, I just want to give a shout out to James Sanders. If you are looking for a personal trainer, not just affordable, but will get you the results you're looking for, check them out on all platforms at Make Gangs and Not Excuses. Let him know Z Global sent you. He might give you a discount. I don't know. But anyway, let's tap into this interview. It's powerful, and it was so powerful and so on time. To the time that we're in now, I felt like we needed to bring it back. So let's sit back and sip on a little bit of Jane Elliot.
All right, so I'm excited to be here tonight with this amazing woman. And I tell you, she has such an amazing spirit. I know some of you, most of you probably have known her, of her, or come in contact with her. Jane Elliot's been featured on Oprah, the Oprah Winfrey Show. That's where I actually came across her, seeing a video clip of her back in 1992, and it just intrigued me to do more and more research, and I just grew to really fall in love with her message. She's a diversity specialist. She's also a teacher, and she wears that hat proudly, and an activist that is best known for her brown eye, blue eye experience, I guess you would call it.
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
better.
Yes, because it's truly an experience, and I admire it so much. How are you, Jane, out there in Iowa?
Well, right now I'm so relieved that Hillary Clinton has knocked Donald Trump all over the stage with words. It's just been beautiful. It's been like, open your mouth one more time so she can put another foot in it. I am so pleased that she's able to do this, and she has held her temper, and she has, oh my goodness, it's been an interesting experience. Another learning experience.
Amazing.
When they talked about race, he refused to talk about race, and she made a big mistake. She said, we have to retrain our policemen. No. That isn't where we start. We don't start with our law enforcement people. We start with our college professors who are educating our future teachers. But first we have to educate those college professors to teach that there are not 4 different races. There is only one race. We've got to get college professors who are educating future educators to agree that there's only one race, that we're all members of the same one, and that all these people that we consider inferior are our cousins, every one of them. And we can, in this country, we are engaged in what Nathan Rustine calls psychological genocide, with the racial conditioning of our children in the schools. Now, as long as teachers have been subjected to that same way to teach, they are going to educate the way they've been educated. If you don't know any better, then you teach what you learned. Unfortunately, we all learned the wrong thing. We learned that there are superior races and there are inferior races, and we white people decide which is which. In fact, there's only one race, and you can turn people into acting like inferior people by the way you treat them. I know that because I've done it. I've done it with blue-eyed, white adult males in major corporations, CEOs of major corporations. I can turn into people who act the way many of our black and brown students and many women, young and old, behave because of the way we treat them. That's what's happening in this country. That's what's happening in schools all over this country. We are still teaching that Columbus discovered America. We are still teaching that it's just, the whole thing is so utterly ridiculous, and we're still teaching it. Anybody who hasn't read the book, The Myth of Race, The Myth, M-Y-T-H, of Race, by Robert Wald, W-A-L-D, Sussman, S-U-S-S-N-A-N, is going to go on believing the nonsense of this myth. We have been misled where color is concerned for long enough. The first modern human beings that evolved on this earth were black women, and they evolved about 200,000 years ago. Every person on the face of the earth today is the descendant of those black women. We have to get that into people's heads. Every one of us is a member of the human race, and the human race started with black women. And for many years there were nothing but women, and then as a result of a mutation of the genes, the first male was born. So women, when you're arguing with a man, remember you're talking to a mutant, and don't get too upset by it. Now you're going to have people say, she doesn't like men. Oh, yes, I do like men. Oh, man, do I like men. In fact, I lost the one I cared about 3 years ago this week. We don't take good enough care of our men, women.
No, I agree.
If you've got a son or a brother or a husband or a father that you adore, you better start taking care of them, particularly in the black community, because their lives are in danger. We have created a war zone for young black and brown males in this country.
Now, Miss Elliot.
I believe. What? Go on. You want me to shut up? I can stop any time.
No. I just want to ask you a question, because all that you just said, there may be somebody on here who may not have known who you are. Are you by any chance a white American saying this?
I'm a white, old, heavy, short American female. Christian in everything but my language. But the Pope said this week, it's all right for me to be what I am. The Pope said this week, you don't have to be a Catholic. And he also said, Catholics, stop judging people because it's not your job to judge other people. And he also said that God loves atheists, too.
Right.
I'm so in love with that Pope. It's too bad he can't get married. He's my age.
Well, Miss Elliot, what brought you to be so passionate about it? Like, what happened that said, because I remember seeing something on Oprah where you say that if you are a white American, you went to school in our standardized educational system, and you're not a racist, that means that you haven't been paying attention. And you being a white female American, what enlightened you, or why is this such a passionate thing for you?
My dad said once a week at least, probably 3 or 4 times a day some days, a fair thing is a pretty thing, and a right wrongs no man. And he also said, a fair thing is a pretty thing. He said, it might inconvenience you, it might impoverish you, but it won't wrong you if it's right. That's what he taught, and that's what he believed, and that's the way he behaved. And we heard all these ugly things, that stereotypical crap about black people, only we didn't call them black people. We called them the N-word, because that was the way it was done then. And I graduated from high school, and I went to college at the University of Northern Iowa, which at that time was Iowa State Teachers College. And I saw on that campus black students who were smarter than I was, who had a whole lot more money than I did, because most everybody did, who had been farther than I would have been, and who had coping skills that I had never developed. And I saw people that I admired tremendously, and I found out that I had been lied to at that point for 18 years. And I thought, if they lied about that, what else did they lie about? And I got married to my lovely brown-eyed husband, because I believed I wanted a brown-eyed husband. I would have done anything to get him. In fact, I did practically do anything. I did get him. We produced a bunch of kids. Anyway, and we moved to Waterloo, because I like brown-eyed men. And we moved to Waterloo, Iowa, and my husband managed supermarket for National Tea in the North End, which was the black section. He developed tremendous friendships and good associations with that group. Then National Tea was going to transfer us, and we had purchased a house in Waterloo, and we knew we'd get transferred back. So I put an ad in the paper that said we had a house for sale. And a woman called and said, do you rent to coloreds? I'll never forget this, and I wish I could. And I, for a minute, thought, if we're going to move back here, and if we rent this to colored people, what will our neighbors do to us when we come back here? And instead of saying, if you got the money, you got the house, I defected to the enemy, and I said, this is an all-white neighborhood. And the minute I said it, I knew what I had done. And she said, all right, thank you anyway, and hung up. I'll never forget that, and in that moment, I knew what I had done. I had given up my principles for money, and I knew that I would never, ever do it again. And I won't, and I haven't, and I won't. Wow. As my father said, I'd rather pick shit with the chickens than do something that I knew was wrong. I'm sorry, people, if that's
no, this audience is fine with the word shit, believe me, okay? If you're not...
Even if you heard that before. Well, if you haven't heard it before, you should have watched the debates tonight, and that's what you got out of Donald Trump for the last hour and a half. I tell you them anyway. No, I'll never do that again.
No,
I won't.
Let me ask you a question, because you've been touching on Donald Trump a little bit, and we'll get back on the topic, but also in the past, some people might be in a situation like, and they might be looking at it like, we almost feel like, especially black Americans, feel like they are choosing between two devils, almost like which devil is better than the other, because, in Hillary's past, we've known that some things haven't been the best, or she hasn't said the best things in regards to black people, including her husband. But what would you say in regards to, like, in that aspect, choosing between the two not so great people?
We shouldn't have to pick the best of the worst. But it's the Republicans' fault that they allowed the best of the worst to rise to the worst of the worst to rise to the top. That was ridiculous. And the media could have ignored that man, but every time he coughed or spit or blew his nose, it was on the media. They were on it immediately. They furnished him with about $2 million, more than $2 million worth of free advertising by covering everything that man did. Now, we shouldn't have had to pick between these two people. I have a problem with Mrs. Clinton. But she admitted tonight that she had a problem when she called. She didn't say it right there in front. She didn't say she shouldn't have called young black and brown males super predators. But she should have apologized for that on air. She should have apologized for that. And she should have apologized for saying that they needed to be brought to heel. Because those two phrases, those two descriptions are how you talk about animals. Black and brown males are not animals. They are members of my race. And I get real angry at people who abuse, verbally or physically, members of my family. They are related to me. And I won't tolerate this. L.B. Sell said, you must not tolerate the intolerable. If what's happening to black and brown males is intolerable for them, it's intolerable for me, because they are part of my family. They are part of the family of man. And it's time for us to stop regarding them as another race. I don't ever put up with them. People say this to me, but now they don't. I catch them. They say, well, I'm a member of a biracial family. And I have to say, which of your parents came from outer space? Well, either one of them. Well, if your parents came from the planet Earth, you are not a member of a biracial family because there's only one race on the face of the earth. You may be a mosaic, which is a person who is made up of many different elements, but that does not make you biracial.
Right.
I have a problem with language, obviously.
With the way words are power. Words are very powerful. It's in the Bible, definitely.
Words are the most powerful weapon. Words are the most powerful weapon devised by humankind. We kill people with words on a daily basis in this country and on this earth. We do psychological genocide with words in the schools.
Right.
And we get away with it because it worked for my father, it worked for my grandfather. Why won't it work for me? It didn't work for our fathers or our grandfathers. It left our fathers and our grandfathers ignorant. And education, school is supposed to be an effort to educate people, which means lead them out of ignorance. We haven't done that where race is concerned in the schools in this country for 400 years. We have created the idea of 4 different races. White people created that idea. Now, anything you create, you can destroy. We could destroy the idea of 4 or 5 different races, and we could do it in 2 generations. But we won't do it until we re-educate the educators. And you won't do it by just training the police department, because we train dogs and horses and kittens. You educate. You can't see. We use such ridiculous words. We're going to train you how to behave toward these black people. Wait a minute. First, we're going to educate you into thinking that those young black and brown males are human beings who are guaranteed equitable treatment under the law because they are citizens of the United States of America. And we're going to treat them fairly, those who are not yet citizens, because they are fellow human beings. Whether or not they're citizens of this country, they are fellow human beings, and they deserve to be treated equitably. Now, I'm not saying we're all equal. You and I aren't equal. You're younger than I am. I'll bet you're taller than I am. I'll bet you're prettier than I am. I'll bet you're more educated than I am. And I'll bet you know more about computers than I do. So you and I will never be equal. We are not guaranteed equality in the Constitution. We are guaranteed equitable treatment under the law. And that's why this debate tonight is so very important. The person who wins this debate and who ultimately wins the presidency is going to choose at least 1 and perhaps 3 new Supreme Court judges. And then the kind of equity that we will have under the law, that will be gone. We will have no equity under the law if Donosaurus T. Rump chooses the new members of the Supreme Court. This election isn't just about race. It isn't just about gender. It isn't about the fact that this is our first female presidential nominee. It's about equity under the law, and it's about Supreme Court justices. Now, there's a man from Iowa who's head of the Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, who says President Obama will never be allowed to appoint a Supreme Court judge. Now, it says in the Constitution that nominating Supreme Court judges is the president's job. How dare Senator Grassley say that? How dare he and his cohorts even attempt to do this? Yeah, I think people aren't listening. I think you aren't listening. I think we're just being led around by our noses. We aren't being told the truth. We've got all this flack going on, and we're paying attention to flack instead of saying, wait. I don't want to hear about race anymore. I want to hear about the human race. And if you don't want to talk to me about the human race, don't talk to me. Right. I want to talk about when we're going to treat everybody, when we're going to give everybody in this country equitable treatment under the law. And now, I want, wait a minute, I'm Donald Trump. I'm going to say what I want.
Go ahead, go, Miss Elliot. I wrote it down.
I want everybody who's listening to this to get a copy of the book, The Birth Dearth, by Ben Wattenberg, Wattenberg. The Birth, D-I-R-T-H, Dearth, D-E-A-R-T-H. It means too few births. In the first paragraph of the first page of that book, Ben Wattenberg, who was a member of the American Enterprise Institute and gave advice to presidents of the United States, said, the biggest problem we have to confront in this country today is there are not enough white babies being born. If we don't change this immediately, white people will be in the numerical minority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, if that doesn't irritate you, I don't know what will. He says there are three ways to solve this problem. The first one is stupid. The second one is what Donald Trump is proposing, which is keep those people from south of the border from coming here because they're all brown-skinned, and we don't want to have any more of those people, and they reproduce too fast. But he says the third thing we can do is remember that 60% of the fetuses that are aborted every year in this country are white. If we could keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth. In other words, keep those white fetuses alive. He doesn't say what to do with the other 40% that are fetuses that aren't white. But I know what he's thinking, and so do you. Now, if you think the right to life movement is about pity for that poor fetus, or about morality, you need to realize that the right to life movement is the right to white life. Make no mistake about this. We are not talking about keeping all children alive, stopping all abortions. We're talking about stopping white women from having abortions. Now, does this bother you at all?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I never knew that.
Well, of course you didn't know it. But see, you aren't supposed to know those things, because if you find out those things, then you'll turn around and say, whoa, wait a minute. Abortion isn't the worst thing that can happen to someone. The worst thing that can happen to someone is not getting out of the delivery room because whoever the doctor or nurses are didn't really care whether you survived.
Right. Yeah.
No.
That would be terrible.
No. The whole thing is upside down, and what I'm seeing right now is the same kinds of things that happened pre-1933 in Nazi Germany. In Germany, when the Nazis were coming to power.
Right.
And you see, I know about what happened after 1933 because after the year I was born. There's a Chinese curse that says, may you live in interesting times. I've lived in really interesting times.
Wow, 1933. You look good, Miss Elliot.
Boy, well, the first thing to go is your eyes, and your eyes are really going to pot, aren't they?
Now, let me just ask you. Now, I know that sometimes you get caught up when you talk about Martin Luther King, and I became very intrigued and actually learned something watching a lot of your videos is that, you know, that I didn't know that he wasn't, I never knew about the economic part of why he was killed. But why does it get you choked up to think about Martin Luther King and when he was assassinated?
You know what bothers me, but you ask anyway, don't you?
Sorry.
One of the worst things that's happened in my lifetime since the Holocaust and the Second World War was the killing of Martin Luther King Jr. Because he represented hope to me. And for me, hope is an acronym for holding on to positive energy. And that was what Martin Luther King Jr. was trying to do. If he hadn't brought together the people in the Poor People's March on Washington, he would probably still be alive. If he hadn't gotten so close to Malcolm X, and the two of them were going to come together, if they hadn't threatened this government with that, he would probably still be alive, and so would Malcolm X. But it was obvious that he was going to be a force to reckon with. He was going to change the way this country behaved economically. When it was just black people, we knew how to perpetuate racism. We'd been doing it for 200 years. But when white people joined with Martin Luther King Jr. to upset the economic card in this country, he had to go. I don't think that Mr. Ray had the capacity to bring that killing about. I know he was severely dyslexic, couldn't remember how to spell his own name. I know that he couldn't have gotten in that place at that time with those weapons, with that weapon, without a whole lot of help. So I don't think that killing was an accident. I think it was an assassination. And now I will be called a conspiracy theorist. And it's all right if you want to call me that name. I've been called a lot worse. Oh, my goodness. But I think people have to see. I've been called names that I was supposed to take as an insult and took as a compliment. When they call me the N-word lover, I say thank you very much. I'd rather be a lover than a hater any day. Thank you very much. Would you care to join me? They don't want to join me for some reason. I'm tired of this nonsense.
Right.
I'm tired of watching good people die because ignorant people don't know the reason for skin color, and since they don't understand it, they have to hate it because they've been taught to hate it, and it's a lie. When somebody says to me, they don't like me because of the color of my skin, I say, no. Don't ever say that to me again. That's not the reason they don't like you. They don't like you because they're ignorant where skin color is concerned. That's why they don't like you. Do not take the responsibility for their disliking you by blaming it on your own skin. Good Lord. Put the responsibility where it belongs on anybody who is ignorant enough to judge people by the presence or the absence of the melanin, of a chemical melanin in their skin. Now, black people who dislike me don't dislike me because of what I say for the most part, but they've learned how people who look like me are likely to treat them. So they don't trust me. And I know that white people don't trust me, and they hadn't better trust me. I'm a white woman. And when the chips are down, white people will give me the benefit of the doubt. But they won't give black women the same benefit of the doubt. If I were a black woman and had done the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise with my third graders the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, I'd have lost my job, absolutely, and I might have lost my life. But I've been doing that same exercise in one form or another for 48 years. And I've been threatened with death lots of times, but I'm still here. Well, and I intend, I'm going to be here for another, 20 or 30 years. I'm too mean to die, and there's too much work. There's too much work to be done to just give up. It would be easy for me to retire right now. Oh, it would be so easy. But I'm going to get on a plane tomorrow, drive 70 miles to get on a plane, to fly 3 hours.
Wow.
To do this, to speak, to talk about this thing again. I'm going to do that every week for the next 8 weeks.
Wow.
Every week. And a couple of weeks I'm going to do it twice. Because things haven't gotten better. And if we aren't very careful, 6 weeks from now, and if we don't vote very, very carefully, things will get considerably worse within 6 months.
Right.
You need to thank President Obama for no longer agreeing to privatize the federal prison system. Now, if we can just get the state prisons to stop being privatized, we might do a very, very good thing for those people who are imprisoned.
Right. Right.
People don't realize that if you privatize them, then the government can't come in and look and see what's going on, and they can't regulate if it's a private system, if it's a private prison. They can't regulate them. You've got to have people regulating what happens in prisons in this country. And
Absolutely.
we've got to see to it that those young black and brown men that were called super predators are let out of jail if they were victimless crimes, if they were convicted of victimless crimes as a result of the crime bill. 3 strikes and you're out. We've got to see that they get out and that they are not disenfranchised. We've got to pass a law that says if you have been in prison and you are allowed to leave and it was a victimless crime and you're back to where you ought to be as an American citizen, you may vote in the next election. We cannot disenfranchise all those people who were put in jail as a result of that 3 strikes you're out crime bill.
By Clinton. No, I'm kidding. So
now are you tired of listening to me? Because this has been for half an hour.
Well, I won't hold you because I know you have to go soon, and I definitely want to see if we have just a few questions. But I just had maybe 2 more questions, maybe one and a half.
Okay, go ahead.
So you are known for giving acknowledgement to Black accomplishment, and you talk about why it's so important for us to know this. And, you know, we know that the standard educational system is, you call it, you don't even call it like a curriculum. You call it something else. I forget what you call it.
It's conditioning. It's a conditioning system.
Right.
It's indoctrination. It's not education, it's indoctrination. And tonight, when Donald Trump gets into his big limo, and they drive down the street in wherever he is, can't remember where he is, and they come to a stop sign, red, green, yellow, they're going to have to stop if it's red. And at that point, they are being controlled by an invention created by a black man. You knew that, of course. And when he looks down at his expensive shoes that he bought from China or some other country outside the United States while he's complaining about businesses leaving the country, he's going to be looking down at a right and a left shoe because a black man, Jan Ernst Matzeliger, invented the last for sewing shoes together, mechanically. And so that you could have shoes that have 2 different shapes, one for your left foot and one for the right foot. And I just know that every time he puts his shoes on, he says, "Thank God for black people."
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that one.
I'm sure you didn't know that one.
Yeah.
And when he turns on the electric light, he has to say, "Thank God for black people," because many of the components for generating and transmitting electricity were invented by black males. And of course, he will never again, as long as he lives, eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, because black people had bread before white folks started to grow grain, and peanut butter was developed with the help of a black man, George Washington Carver.
Yeah, I knew that one.
Did you know he was working at Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa?
I did not know that one.
There's another thing you learned tonight. So now, if you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, what you have to do is slap a gob of jelly on your hand and lick it off. Because you can't use bread and you can't use peanut butter. But you can use jelly. You can't eat jelly because it's made with sugar, and white folks just love sugar. Of course, we got jelly from Native Americans, but we won't talk about that. and we got sugar from people of color in South America and Central America, but we don't talk about that. And we won't talk about the fact that we got our democracy because George Washington studied the Indians on the northeast part of this country for the way they ran their tribal law.
Wow.
We say we got it from the Greeks. We did not get it from the Greeks. And we also say that Barack Obama was our first black president. No, he wasn't. Abraham Lincoln was our first black president. Abraham Lincoln was 1/3 black, 1/3 Cherokee, and 1/3 white. We had our first black president years and years and years ago.
Hmm.
And
Well,
you
I
knew
didn't know
that.
that.
Right?
No, I didn't know that. Definitely did not know that.
You
Now,
see,
one thing.
you don't know those things because your teachers didn't know them.
Right. And I
Okay.
never knew one thing that you always say, or I've heard you say, is that people, like sometimes I would have white friends that tell me that they don't see my color. Like, I don't see you as black. You know, I don't see you as black, Kira.
Didn't have that happen.
Yes, like several times. And do you think that's the same thing when people say, you know, they hear people talk about Black Lives Matter, and then they rebuttal with all lives matter. Like, do you think that's the same thing?
When people say, in order to rebut the idea that Black Lives Matter, what they are trying to do is deny that black lives have mattered negatively for 300 or 400 years in this country. They are trying to deny our history of blatant racism. If black lives, without black lives, we would have a very, very small cotton industry all those years ago. And sugar industry all those years ago. In fact, we wouldn't even have cotton if it weren't for people of other colors. We got that from China and India, and those are people of color. And we wouldn't have sugar for the same reason. But black lives absolutely have to be seen in as positive a light as white lives are. When you start talking about black lives and white lives and red lives, what you're talking about are color groups. They are not races. When people say, oh God, I was standing beside a black woman, an aggressive, abrasive black woman I worked with in Denver, Colorado. And some white woman came diddling up to her and said, Linda, when I see you, I don't see you black. And I stepped back because I thought, oh, Lord, there's going to be bloodshed here, and I've got to wear this suit tomorrow. I didn't want to get covered with blood. And I thought Linda was going to kill her. I stepped back, and Linda very gently and very sweetly said, well, I think you have an eye problem. Let's make an appointment with the optometrist so that we can get your eyes taken care of. And when somebody says to a black person, I don't see you black, you know you're talking to a liar. Because if they didn't see you black, they'd say, I don't see you green. And that would be the truth. And when they say, I don't see you black, then you need to say, what else do you lie about, fool? You
because there's nothing wrong with it.
The first human beings on this earth were black. So quit this crap about, oh, I can't see your color. That women say in my presence only once, I'm colorblind. And I say, I thought you must be, or you wouldn't have worn that shirt with those pants.
Oh my gosh. Well, I truly know that every person on this line, if you're on the line, it's a shameless plug, and you are getting anything from this. If you found out about this post through Facebook or Instagram, go on there, make a comment, let everyone know about the call. We're about to end it. Because I know, Ms. Elliot, you have a busy flight, and I'm just so appreciative to be able to be a part of this. And if you're willing to come back, we would flood the lines. We just want to get this message out. But if there was anything that you, and we'll see if we have a few, if you have a question, please hit 5-star now, 5-star now, so we can get you in the queue.
They're all going to be afraid to ask for share. I'll answer.
If you're not afraid to ask Ms. Elliot a question tonight, please hit 5-star. Okay, we have, this is a dear friend of mine. His name, they call him Billionaire Brown. He's one of those brown-eyed men that you were talking about, Ms. Elliot. But Demetrius, Billionaire Brown, is on the line. And what's your question, Demetrius, for Ms. Elliot?
All right, Miss Elliot, this is a great call, and I guess my only question is, it sounds like you're voting for Hillary Clinton, right?
I'm going to hold my nose and vote for the best of the worst. I will not, and I would discourage anybody else from writing in somebody else's name or deciding not to vote. I'm just not going to vote because I don't like the people that are running. Don't do that, because every vote that Hillary doesn't get is going to be seen as a plus for Donald Trump, and it will be. You've got to outnumber the votes that Donald Trump gets. And with the highest vote of racism,
So it is
what?
Hillary, right?
I have to vote for Hillary. I would have voted for Bernie Sanders, but I will not write in somebody else's name now. The most important vote I will ever cast will be the one that I cast in this election, in an attempt to keep an idiot from representing the United States of America in the White House. I remember when Richard Nixon said to a group of white people, "I'm trying to keep the White House for you white people." See, this is a long, long thing we've got going here. And it isn't just whatever Hillary called those, of course, half of the people who are voting for Donald Trump. It's a lot of people, plus those, who are firmly entrenched in the belief of 4 different races and one race good because they don't have much melanin in their skin. Now, Hillary has been working at least a little to do something about that. She's been working on education. Donald Trump can't pronounce education, and neither could W. He thought there was a G or a J in the word education. Even that little thing just irritates the devil out of me. So I will vote for Hillary because there's no better, we have no better alternative now. There's no alternative. If you don't vote for Hillary, you are voting for Trump. Do you want to vote for Trump? Now you ask me and I'm asking you. If it's all right for you to ask me whether I'm going to vote for Hillary, I'm asking you, are you going to vote for Trump?
You know what? I don't know who I'm voting for.
I just told you who to vote for.
But I'll tell you this.
Now you know.
But I tell you this. All of my friends who are voting for Hillary tend to talk about Donald Trump way more than they talk about Hillary. And what I think it is, and let's say when it comes down to it, we're approaching getting to those polls and, picking our votes. If you have, like the person you were just talking about, you said, there's a lot of people saying they're not going to vote because they don't want to choose, right? Those people, when it comes time to go into the voting polls, are you concerned in any way that because of so much talk about Trump and his flaws, that just through repetition, they may end up voting for him because that's what we talk about most often?
To be perfectly honest, I'm scared shitless that they'll do that very thing. I'm scared to death that people the last word they heard was Trump, and they'll go into that booth, and it's easy to read the word Trump. It's a one-syllable word. It's got a short U sound. It's a real easy word to read. And they'll hit that button for Trump instead of doing the thing that would be best for all of us, which is voting against him. When I vote for Hillary, I won't be voting for Hillary. I'll be voting against Donosaurus T. Rump.
If I had a marketing campaign, I don't know who I'm voting for, but if I was a person that was a Hillary supporter and I had a major, major voice, what I would tell all of her supporters, a strategy would be to never mention him ever, ever, ever. From now on.
Never mention what?
Never mention the name Trump at all. From now until November.
See, that would have been wonderful. That would have been wonderful a year and a half ago. But we've heard that name. It has been pounded into our ears. Just like the idea of the rightness of whiteness has been pounded into our ears. It's like we're playing cards and everybody wants to trump. I want to trump this trick, and I'll take this trick if I trump it. His last name was Grumpf until his father changed. He was from Germany. His father changed his name from Grumpf to Trump. So he isn't even carrying the name he was born with. The man's a phony. He's a phony. He's a liar. He's a thief. And this week he was proud of saying, I believe you can get wealthy on OPM. They said, what's that? Other people's money. He doesn't pay income tax. He doesn't pay federal income tax. And the amount of money that he doesn't pay into the federal government has to come from somebody else. And guess who it's coming from? It's coming from people like you and me because we have to pay income tax. We make out those taxes, and we're in trouble if we don't pay income tax. So the wealthy people who aren't paying as much It's being made up on those of us in the middle class and the lower class who have to pay income tax because we're afraid of going to jail. He has no fear in that area. This man started a college, and he said to the people who are going to be recruiting the students to go into that college, what you need to do is to get their money. They've got money, and we want to get their money. Get them to pay their money up front, their tuition up front, and then we'll see what we can do with it. And that's what he did. And he cheated hundreds and hundreds, thousands, as he says. It was a huge enterprise. It was an enterprise that took money so he could use other people's money. Did you watch the debate tonight?
I haven't been able to watch everything and keep my ears to it, but just from the outside looking in, I honestly know more about Donald Trump's flaws than I know about Hillary Clinton's, good things.
That's because he has so many. That's the reason you know about him, because he has so many. He's one big flaw walking around. He's a mistake. He's a mistake. He's the only living abortion that I know. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. The man is a disaster. And how he got to be where he is another disaster. But don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself by bending over backwards to accept him. Vote for Hillary. It's easy. And vote early. Vote yesterday.
Now, we have one more question. Thank you so much, Demetrius, for that awesome question. And, yes, I understand. I probably talk about him so much, too. But we have one more question here from 919-703.
Phyllis.
Hi. Hey, Phyllis. How you doing?
Hi.
What's your question?
So listening to the last question, I have two questions. I'm sorry. So everybody's talking about Trump and Hillary, and I don't think anybody else knows that there's other people running for the presidency. Like, you never hear these people's names, and no one gives them a chance instead of picking.
Well, you have a little difficulty. You have a little difficulty voting for a man who, when they asked what he would do about Aleppo, didn't know that was a cigarette lighter or something. He didn't know what Aleppo was. That causes you a little problem. Now, if William Weld were the one who was running for president instead of this other person, I would vote for that man. Not because I think he could make it, but because I think he'd make a good president. I think William Weld, who was running for the vice presidency on that third party, would make an excellent president. Better than either T. Rump or Hillary. I honestly believe that.
Going towards Jill Allen. That's her name. But
go on. Your next question. You had two questions. What's your second one?
Yeah. So my next question was, you were talking earlier about equality, and I have a feeling that everybody wants to be equal, and like you were saying earlier, there's no way everyone is going to end up being equal. So do you think this fight that, like, the Black Lives Matter, because they want to be equal, and that's what we hear a lot, that it makes sense of that's what we're going towards, is being equal? And
they're being used. Anytime you get a group of people saying, we're fighting for equality, you need to stop and think, wait, that's an impossible dream. No, as long as you're fighting for equality, you won't be fighting for equity. They can't furnish you. You're only equal in the eyes of God. And I don't think that anybody that's in the government of this country is godly. I mean, they're nice people, and they're all probably children of God, but they aren't godly. You need to realize that what these young people are fighting for is exactly what they should be fighting for. Frederick Douglass said, without struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. He also said, and you listen to this and see if you recognize any of these things, where justice is denied. Is that what's happening in this country? Yeah. Where poverty is enforced. Is that what's happening in this country? Where ignorance prevails. Is that what's happening in this country? And where any one class is made to feel that society is an organized conspiracy to oppress rob, and degrade them, is that what's happening in this country? Neither persons nor property will be safe. Frederick Douglass said that many, many years ago, and you should have learned that, I'm sure you did. We should all have learned that a long time ago, and when these right to white lifers come up, we need to say, wait a minute, whose right are you, who do you want to be, whose life is precious to you? Evidently, black lives don't matter because we're going to remember that 60% of the fetuses that are aborted every year are white. And if we keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth. See, if you don't know any of the rest of this stuff, you'll go along with thinking, well, these Black Lives Matter girls are just dissatisfied. If I were a black mother of those young black girls, I'd be dissatisfied and I'd be out there with them. And if I wouldn't if I were a black father because we kill black men. We are less likely to kill black women and black girls. We have other ways to get rid of them. We have psychological genocide in the schools. Now you're thinking, boy, she hates America. I absolutely love this country. But I don't think it's good enough. I don't think we have lived up to our promise. And I think we're sliding backward every day. And when we nominate Donosaurus T. Rump for the presidency, I think we have gotten way beyond bad. We have really slid backward dreadfully in the last year. And it's not because Barack Obama is a bad president. It's because the people who are opposed to a black man in the White House said when he was running for the presidency, he'll never get elected. That's what the white members of the Congress said. When he got elected, they said he will never let him be successful. They fought him tooth and nail every day. When he ran again, they said, it won't happen again. We're going to see to it that doesn't happen. It happened again. And then they said he'll never be successful. He won't even be allowed to do what the Constitution says is his job, which is appoint members to the Supreme Court. We are being led by people in government, among them the Tea Party people, folks who are blatantly, overtly racist. And as long as they don't know that as long as they're so ignorant as to judge people by the amount of chemical in their skin, we have to retrain them. I'm not sure we can re-educate them because some I think are uneducable. But we could retrain them. In that case, they need to be retrained. We're sliding backward because of racism. Every aspect of our lives in this country has some element of racism in it. Every single one. If you think it doesn't, take another look.
Now, Miss Elliot, just to echo off of what Phyllis said, she mentioned about, there's other people that we don't even know about. The likelihood of those people winning, is that taken away from? Is that
yes, it is. Of course it is. Of course it is. If you vote for one of those either the woman, was she the Green Party? Mm-hmm. Or
yes,
Weld and his presidential nominee. If you vote for those folks, you are taking away votes from Hillary, and you are more likely to make Donald Trump president of the United States. It doesn't take any figuring to figure that out. If you've got a pile of 100 jelly beans, okay, and you've got 4 people that want some of those jelly beans, guess what's going to happen? Nobody's going to get half. Unless the two that I really don't want to have it, unless you don't give them theirs, so Trump will get them. So you aren't going to give them to Hillary. You don't like Hillary, so she's not going to get the beans. And if Hillary doesn't take them, and the other 2 aren't getting them, guess who's going to get them? It doesn't take a whole lot of brains to figure this out, folks. Because if it did, I wouldn't have figured it out. Let's be very honest about this. It doesn't take any brains to figure out there are only so many votes. And if you split them among 4 people, and half of them have already said they're going to vote for Donosaurus T. Rump, that means the other 3 are going to have to split half. And then guess what happens? You're going to be saying, Dear President Trump, will you please will you please let me have an abortion because I was raped and I'd like to have an abortion. Will you please let that happen? And he'll send you a letter that says, you're going to be punished if you have an abortion, and we're going to punish the doctor that performs the procedure. Because he's already promised that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
you like that? Because if you do, you can have it. All you have to do is vote for one of the other two people.
great,
And then
great
you can
time.
say, I didn't vote for Trump. It isn't my fault. If you vote for somebody other than Hillary, it is your fault. And I don't like Hillary. I am not a Hillary supporter. I am a Trump unsupporter.
Great.
There's a big difference. Big difference here, people.
Great comments and great questions. And I don't know how much time we have with you, Miss Elliot. I know that you're on the move for bright and early and bushy tails in the morning. I don't see any other questions tonight, but I wanted to. I know because every time, whenever, if I speak or I'm hearing someone else speak, you know, at the end of it, you might be thinking at the end of the session, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have said that, or I wish I would have remembered to say that. Is there anything that you would like to leave to the listeners on this call right now, or listeners who may hear this call from the recording? What would you like to say to them?
Oh, absolutely. I'd like to tell every one of you to get a copy of the book that I wrote not too long ago, that I started in 1985, and read it. It's called A Collar in My Pocket. It isn't color in my pocket. It's collar, C-O-L-L-A-R. A Collar in My Pocket. You can get it on Amazon. And I'd like to have everybody read it because it is a diary, sort of, that I kept. I didn't really keep it very strenuously, but I did write in it occasionally, about what I have learned about the way white adults, males and females, blue-eyed males and females, how they behave when they are put for a few minutes or a few hours in the same situation in which we put people of color on a daily basis for a lifetime in this country. I'd like to have everybody read that because I don't think most of us have any idea that the way people of color behave is a direct result of the way we treat them. And when you treat a whole group of people unfairly for 400 years, as we have in this country, with Native Americans, certainly, and absolutely with blacks, because we have enslaved them, and we really thought that, the people who did the enslaving really thought that they were less than human. It's the way they treated them as though they were less than human. And we still have people who are doing the same thing, but in a different way. I think you need to read the book that describes how white people behave when they're put in that situation, and it wasn't enslaved. Just for a couple of hours, read the kinds of things they say and the kinds of attitudes and behaviors they exhibit. And then all of a sudden you'll say to yourself, oh my God, this is a human problem. This is the way human beings behave who are abused over decades, who are called less smart than their white counterparts in the schools, who have to use their bodies to entertain white people in order to make a really good living, and then who are accused by a man who's running for the presidency of being, well, you know how it is with those black folks, and who stands at a rally and points to the one black man who's with him and says, I've got my African-American, right? Look there, right? There's my African-American. And nobody stands up and says, why you, They let him get away with it because we have been conditioned to think it's all right to regard people who are not white as less than deserving and less than deserving of decent treatment and of respect. My heroes are black women because for the most part they raise fantastic, cooperative, hardworking, forward-thinking, successful children. And I don't know how they do it in a society that treats those children the way we treat those women and those children. I don't know how they do it. They have developed coping skills. Most of them have developed coping skills that I didn't have to develop until after I did the exercise. But then you see, I can walk out of my house. I can move to a different community. And if I keep my mouth shut, nobody has to know who I am, and they treat me just like any other white woman until they find out what I do for a living. Then it's quite different. Then I get re-educated in how you get treated if you are too different in color or size or gender or sexual orientation or age. God help you if you are foolish enough to get old in this country.
Wow.
You didn't even want to hear all that, did you? Well, you kept me on the line too long.
No, I did. I love it. Everybody, definitely check out A Collar in My Pocket by Jane Elliot on Amazon.com. Also, head over to JaneElliot.com. I've been on the site looking. I like the T-shirt that you have on. I've been sharing that post. Yeah.
We sell those T-shirts and sweatshirts. You can get
for
$30.
I've been on the site, Jane. I've been on there.
I wear that sweatshirt everywhere I go, and that's the only thing I'm taking tomorrow when I go to give a speech. I'll have my white sweatshirt with those black words on it, which says, "Prejudice is an emotional commitment to ignorance." Nathan Lusty. Prejudice is an emotional commitment to ignorance. If you don't know about somebody and you prejudge them, it's because you're too ignorant to learn about them.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now that ruins your night.
Well, no, you did not ruin my night. I know for sure. And if you are on the line listening live, just go put your comments, tag, share when we post a recording, we definitely want you guys to share this. I believe this message needs to be said. Definitely make sure that you go out and vote. Voting this year is very important, as you just heard. And Jane, I hope to God that we connect again so that we can continue this journey and helping to do this message. Because I know, at least, like you said, we have you for at least 30 more years. So.
But we've got you for a lot more. And it's important that people your age and younger learn that there's only one race. It's the human race. Absolutely. And there's no such thing as a biracial family or a multiracial group unless you're talking about people from another planet. It's important that young people know that, and it's important that people of your age tell it to everybody who's younger and older than you are. We've got to get that message sent, and that's the message that Mrs. Clinton should have sent tonight instead of saying we have to retrain the police.
We got to get you on her team.
We got to give her a call.
Yes.
Now listen, here's the answer that you should have made to that question about race. She should have said, race is a social construct. There's only one race on the face of the earth. The reason we have racism is because we've done a bad job of educating people for the last 400 years. That's the answer she should have given. And I was sitting here listening to her say, we need to retrain the police, and I said, but say it, Hilary, say it. She didn't say it.
We got to get the message across. We got to. We will.
Everybody that's listening to this, send a letter to Hilary's campaign people and tell them the next time she is asked that question, here's what you need to say, Hilary.
I'm really going to put that post out. We got to help that lady. We got to help her. We got to help her.
Do it. Everybody say it. She doesn't know what to say because she thinks there are 4 different races too. And she thinks we have to learn how to treat these black people. These are members of this Negro group. Well, they are members of the Negro group. There is no Negro race. There is only black color group. Members of the human race.
Right. Man, you're on fire. I hope I have your energy when I get to your age.
I hope you don't have to. I hope that you're my age, you are sitting in a rocking chair with your feet up and your great-grandchildren around you bringing you tea and cookies. Instead of going out and abusing people for fun and profit.
Oh, God. Well, I know that this was a blessing to our audience. Thank you so much, Jane. We're going to wrap up the call. We're going to open up the line to Miss Jane, and we will definitely be back soon. And thank you so much, Jane Elliot. Good night, everybody. And say bye to Jane.
Good night. Bye. No, good night. Don't say goodbye
Thank
because
you.
that means I'm on my way out. Good night. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Jane.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in to the Z Truth Podcast. We hope today's episode gave you value and something new to think about. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and join the conversation by following us on all platforms. Sharing is caring, so do us a favor and share it with someone who needs to hear the truth.